If I'd known the plethora of side effects that are associated with this drug, I might have been able to get her help days before I did.
For 12 years, Lottie has been by Courtney's side.
I knew she was my dog from the minute I met her.
Lottie, this way. Ready, set.
She was really gentle.
It's time for a quiet time.
Lottie dog in particular was with me through some pretty horrible stuff that happened with my family. My husband was really ill. I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer, had multiple surgeries. She was just with me through everything and just was my constant companion and best friend.
When Lottie started slowing down and suffering from stiffness, Courtney took her to their local vet, who suggested Beransa, a monthly osteoarthritis injection.
They came to me saying it was safe and side effect free compared to some other non-steroidals on the market, and I believed them, so I happily went with their recommendation.
But shortly after her second injection, Lottie was presenting with worrying symptoms and her condition deteriorated further.
She was gradually becoming more lethargic. When I then looked at her gums were ghost white. She had some evidence of bleeding on the pink skin under her legs. I went and picked up some of her poo and it was covered in bloody tar. So evidence that she was bleeding internally.
They raced her to the emergency vet. The dog had no platelets and underwent a plasma infusion. Courtney did everything she could to keep her alive.
Financially, I exhausted everything. I exhausted my emergency fund. I got a second credit card. I took a personal loan. So Lottie's bill was up around the $15,000 mark.
But Lottie's condition wasn't improving.
So I said, Beransa's done this to my dog. And then I was just hugging her. They were preparing to put her down and I just said on repeat, I just love you, love you, love you in her ear. And she was more worried about me crying. She's like, Mum, what are you crying? Like, you know, you're so sick. She fought for 12 weeks. In the end, it was the kindest thing I could do is let her go. And now I'm just trying to save dogs by telling her story.
Beransa and Solensia is an osteoarthritis injection that claims to target and neutralise nerve growth factor, a protein involved in nerve development and pain signalling. The monthly medication is said to reduce pain and inflammation in the joints.
One of the biggest problems that we are having with Beransa is it's being sold as having zero side effects. And there's no such thing as a drug being injected into the body that is going to have zero side effects. Everything is going to potentially have effects.
Zoetis, the drug manufacturer, says the medicines are safe, with reports of side effects representing well less than 1% of the more than 18 million shots. And for many pet owners, it has helped their cat or dog's mobility.
We're starting to see some neurological issues such as cognitive decline, blindness, deafness, vestibular, vertigo, and even seizures.
In the States, after reviewing the drug, the US Food and Drug Administration forced Zoetis to include death as a possible side effect on its labelling in the US, issuing a warning letter to veterinarians. But the Australian regulator is yet to go so far.
The problem we have with the drug companies here in Australia is that they only have to put on their label any reports of side effects that occur here in Australia. We do not have to actually acknowledge any of the side effects that have occurred in Europe or America that happen to be from the same drug.
What is a real pain point for Australian pet owners is that the Canadian product leaflet has got over 16 pages of details here. And that's what we want. That's the changes that we're trying to make. And when you have a look at all of that data and you weigh up the potential lack of efficacy versus the potential side effects, it just comes down to being a game of Russian roulette for dogs and cats.
While many Aussie vets say the drug works well for most animals and improves their quality of life, others want more information about the long-term impact.
It should be used more as a last resort. And we've got to remember that this is actually targeting the pain. It's not actually targeting the actual inflammatory process that goes on behind the scenes. And there's so many other drugs, medications and therapies that we can actually use to stop that inflammatory process to start with.
Now, there's a growing group of pet owners calling on the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority to address the issues with the drug by updating its warning label.
Informed consent is what any of us want, and to make good choices for our animals, for ourselves. It's not too much to ask for, and Zoetis need to be held to account.
And they're preparing a class action against Zoetis, mirroring the one in the US.
Since this story first broke, our numbers have tripled, which is good and bad. It's heartbreaking because people are reaching out to me and
just reliving that grief over and over again as people keep coming forward. And that guilt and that anger and that frustration just keeps rolling, but it keeps fueling my fire that we have to make positive change so that animals are not suffering in silence because of this.
I don't like to weigh in on anything. It's about to be a class action, but just imagine the scenario of being a pet owner who's
you're doing the right thing.
Yes, and then to have to live with the outcome of that.
Easy, yeah.
When it's yeah. that
Good
is
on her for
brutal.
putting her grief to one side to warn other pet owners. A statement from APVMA can be found on our links page. Check it out.
All right.